brand new episode of the Brickyard Podcast. We're coming to you live on a Monday night. It is currently 10:33 Eastern Time, and it is hot in Phoenix, and my bathwater in Austin, or my pool in Austin, has turned to bathwater temperature. But we are here to preview the NFC West schedule. We get huge news out of the Cardinals, some devastating, tragic news out of the San Francisco 49ers, confusing news from the Seahawks, and interesting news from the Rams. So we're going to pick every single game for both of those teams. You're going to be picking the Arizona Cardinals and the 49ers. I'm going to be doing the Seahawks and the Rams, and it's going to be a good time. NFL's almost here. Only 44 days left until the NFL season.
Yes, and I feel like this is the time of the year where people really start to yearn for football. Basketball's over. Baseball hasn't quite reached its postseason run quite yet, so we're just kind of in the middle of waiting period. But now we have the Hall of Fame game coming up. College football is going to be back. Soon enough, we'll have preseason games. And then just a few weeks from now, football will be upon us in the regular season. Fantasy football will be back. DraftKings will be live again for those who do such things. And it's good to be soon enough, 44 days from now, life will be good again. Order will be restored in the galaxy.
Yeah, because the galaxy right now is kind of chaotic. We had the news of Tony Romo getting a DUI in like Madison, Wisconsin, of all places. So I don't know, because I've been one of those people who's definitely been on that Tony Romo hate bandwagon, but this at least explains it. Like, we had a suspicion this was going on, but I think Tony Romo said, well, wow, I've been drinking since I was 16 and I had a good run for 30 years.
You know, it's funny because, like, and I don't know if other people had this reaction, but when I saw that Tony Romo got arrested, I immediately jumped to Mark Sanchez. Immediately. Immediately, I'm like, oh, so he stabbed a guy in a commercial truck, right? Not so much. It seems like he was just like had one too many road beers, ran a traffic light, and that was the end of Tony Romo. He can't even get arrested, right? He still gets arrested in the worst way, but nonetheless, I heard that he got arrested, and I immediately was like, oh, Mark Sanchez, great, another mid 2010s quarterback who did some fuck shit after a few beers.
He got arrested, said, well, Jim, I don't know about that one. Like, sir, have you been
Josh
drinking
Allen.
tonight? Like, no, I'm pretty sure Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the league, and no, I have not been drinking tonight. And then he refused to do a breathalyzer test, and now he's having to step away from his golf tournament as well. So definitely tough news for Tony Romo, but at least this explains it. Like, it makes sense, but he's not Joe Buck. Like, Joe Buck can pull it off in. I think you sent me the video where Joe Buck was like hammered
Talking
on
about the
Monday
Bucks
Night
game.
Football. He's like, "What the hell is up, everybody? That's Tom Brady right there. Can he turn around the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?" I see Ndamukong Suh's been looking a little bit fat lately, but we'll see if he can shed some tackles here. And he just goes on a run where Tony Romo is like, okay, that's why he's just slurring his words all over himself during the broadcast. Like, it makes sense, and honestly, it makes him a little bit cooler now that he has a mugshot.
Marginally cooler. He's still Tony Romo, and he's still the worst announcer in football. But I have just like a lick more respect for him now. So Tony Romo, congratulations. You've earned some kudos in the Brickyard circle.
And then the biggest news that came out today, you were kind of on this one. I couldn't talk myself into LeBron playing in Philadelphia. I'm like, is he really going to go move and live in Philly? Well, no, he's not, because New York is 45 minutes if he takes a helicopter, which, if you're an NBA fan, has to scare the living hell out of you, right? Like, I feel like Kobe fans are getting PTSD right now, and we just had Oliver Tree. We do not need LeBron James as well, and now he's going to be going to Philadelphia, knock on wood, and flying to and from New York to commute by helicopter.
Yeah, I mean, a cushy apartment in Manhattan or Philadelphia. I kind of am with LeBron here. Like, I've never spent enough time in Philly to really, engulf myself in their community. But LeBron, a guy that's grown up in the richer part of Cleveland, he's lived in LA for the last decade and was in Miami before. Like, him going to Philly, it never really made sense. Him going to Manhattan and commuting to Philly, that makes a little bit more sense. Knowing LeBron, I understand it because frankly, like Manhattan's a little bit nicer, and LeBron is a billionaire. But him going to Philly though completely ruins the East at this point because at this point now you have Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid potentially all on the starting five if they can all stay healthy. And now they have KCP who just signed there. They have all these people who are signing these league minimum now. So they're really trying to stack the deck for the Sixers these last 2 years with LeBron citing 2 league minimum years.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like those older Rocket teams, like when Charles Barkley was signing there to try and get his first ring with the Houston Rockets. Because when you think about it, yes, LeBron James is there now, and they theoretically will have Joel Embiid there and Jaylen Brown. But who's to say that LeBron James and Joel Embiid are going to be healthy next season? Like, is the plan to just sit LeBron and Joel Embiid out for most of the regular season, so that they're just healthy for the playoffs and then go on a run? Because I feel like if they're still playing a significant amount of time, LeBron's still going for some individual milestones stats wise. So how much are him and Embiid going to play in the regular season? How much will that disrupt the team? Because I don't think like Embiid or LeBron will be able to defend that well. So I don't think this is game over for the East. I feel like anytime one of these moves happen, like this isn't Kevin Durant going to the Warriors because LeBron isn't in his prime, can't really play defense anymore. And then it's also like, how is this really going to work? Because Jaylen Brown is a ISO heavy player who's not a good passer. He wasn't a great passer for the Celtics this year, even though he was a better playmaker. Tyrese Maxey is a good passer, but he's head of steam downhill. VJ Edgecombe, like, kind of was a really good 3-point shooter, but he's someone who could benefit with the ball in his hands. And then they're like talking about this game-changing thing of LeBron James playing point guard. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the chemistry on this team works when you essentially have 5 ball handlers. Because Embiid was an MVP and he was a high usage player when he was.
Yeah, and I feel like also like part of the reason why LeBron left the Lakers was because Luka Doncic was now the main guy. Austin Reeves, especially after LeBron was hurt, started to become that second scorer for them. And then obviously they now have Walker Kessler there too, but him being the third fiddle, I feel like was part of the reason why he wanted to go somewhere else. Now he goes to the Sixers where he could be at worst the fourth option, which I think he's still going to be like 2 or 3 in that rotation, but seeing him as a facilitator, we've seen him be a point guard for the Lakers, but at 42 years old, I think there is definitely questions. Knicks have brought back most of their players. Celtics still have a deep roster, even after Jaylen Brown. And then a couple other teams have bolstered up. The Heat are a lot better now. So is it a shoe-in? No, but I do think that this team on paper, all injuries are turned off in a 2K, franchise mode. This team probably makes that out of the East if they all stay healthy.
Yeah. I mean, if it's all injuries turned off, I would probably honestly pick Miami just because of Eric Spoelstra. If Giannis and Bam are fully healthy, I think they could give this team some problems. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see this team because you just look at it and it's a very strange roster, especially since we had the whole Jaylen Brown talking about Bronny James and seeming like LeBron had a problem with it publicly. So it seemed like LeBron and Jaylen Brown, at least the media was making it seem like they were at odds here. And then LeBron just deciding to go to Philadelphia and back to the Eastern Conference is a very odd choice. And I just don't know if I
Yeah.
can see this team winning a championship.
Yeah, it's not one of those teams I trust. I will say, like, They got Anthony Simmons, they got KCP, Dean Wade signed with them as well. So like they have a little bit more depth than they had last year. So I think there's definitely still going to be in the mix for it, but getting out of the West, not having to deal with the Thunder, the Spurs, the Timberwolves, I guess even the Lakers at this point is a good thing for him. I'm kind of glad he didn't go to Golden State. I didn't think Golden State was going to be there for him. As far as like the team to go to win a championship, the Sixers are the best team that he could have gone to. Miami, he's already been there. Cleveland, nobody believes in Cleveland at this point. So realistically, like where he signed, like this is the team that's gonna, if he's gonna win one more ring, it's gonna be in Philadelphia.
Yeah. And I think that it's one of the teams he can win a championship with, and he can also be in a city like either New York, LA, or Miami. And I couldn't really see LeBron James in Texas. Like San Antonio is just too far from everything. Where in Philadelphia, he's still pretty close to a lot of cities, and he's not even that far from Cleveland either. If he wants to go back there.
Yeah, I know this is his last major decision. He was holding up the NBA scheduling conflicts and all that, and now that's all resolved. So Adam Silver can rest assured at night. For the those who may watch the NBA, but interesting signing nonetheless. Starting five looks probably the best in the East at this point. Can they stay healthy is the main question. I still think this is a team that should win at least 55 games, maybe 60 if everyone's healthy. And if Tyrese Maxey takes yet another step and VJ Edgecombe takes another step, then this could be a really great team.
Yeah, no, it could definitely be a really good team. I could see eventually, like during the regular season, them asking LeBron to come off the bench, too. Like I feel like if he's willing to take 2 years, $8 million, and he doesn't need too many games or minutes to like get whatever statistical milestone he's going after or games played, I could definitely see LeBron like coming off the bench in like an older Jason Kidd role, like what he was doing with the Mavericks.
I would love to see that because I feel like size-wise, Dean Wade's probably better at the power forward. If you have LeBron off the bench, then it could be interesting there. But I'm excited to see it. This makes the NBA a little more interesting. LaMelo Ball's been on the move. Giannis moves. LeBron moves. So as far as NBA offseason, this is pretty much what we've all wanted to see. And then, we'll see how the rest of these moves shake out now that the major signing has occurred. But interested to see. I wasn't expecting him to go to Philly.
Yeah, were you surprised that he just took 2 years, 8 million, to essentially put himself in the best situation?
Yeah, I was surprised because LeBron, he didn't do that for the Lakers, and the Lakers could have absolutely used that. But that relationship definitely soured with the Buss family. I'm curious if that would have been the same across all the other teams he was interested in. Would he have done the same thing for Golden State, Miami, or Cleveland? Or if it's just because the Sixers really can't afford to pay him the $50 million he was almost going to have with the Lakers this year. I feel like this is the only situation that he was going to take that league minimum for.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see him in Toronto with Kawhi, but I don't know if Drake will let him back in Toronto after, LeBron went
They
to
won't.
a concert and Drake got upset about it.
Yeah, Toronto is not happy with him. I'm sure the Weeknd's not happy with him either.
Do you think this helps LeBron's legacy at all? As someone like we grew up on LeBron James, and he's the real like first generational player. Like Kobe, Tim Duncan were already playing when I was growing up. So like he's like the first like all-time great I've seen from the start to the finish of his career, like similar to Patrick Mahomes. So like in my eyes, it's like kind of funny just seeing this Philadelphia 76ers team because I don't like get scared at that roster. It doesn't look like a bad team. It's just very bizarre because everyone is in a very different place in their career. Like Jaylen Brown has already won a championship and he wanted his own team. And to leave Boston, him and Jason Tatum both take shots at each other. You have Joel Embiid, who's just trying to have knees. VJ Edgecombe is coming into his second year trying to avoid a slump. And then Tyrese Maxey is really trying to find himself as it seemed like he was becoming the leader of this team. and then suddenly Jaylen Brown is there. He's going to want to be the leader of the team. And then LeBron's not necessarily the best player on the team, but you know what comes with having LeBron James on your team.
Yeah. I can say, like, if we're talking about the history of LeBron and us seeing him play out in full time, I've witnessed him have nobody with him in Cleveland the first time. He leaves, builds a super team in Miami with Chris Bosh and D Wade. They win 2 titles. Soon as that team gets old, he builds another team in Cleveland with Kyrie and Kevin Love. Soon as that team falls apart, he demands them to get Anthony Davis. He gets a ring with the Lakers and builds that team up. And now he joins a Sixers team that was the favorites after getting Jaylen Brown, and then them getting LeBron. Now they're like the quintessential favorites to come out of the East at this point. So as a guy where you're comparing him to Michael Jordan and LeBron, with Kobe and all these other greats, the fact that he's now with the Heat, the Cavs, the Lakers, and now the Sixers has essentially essentially built the championship roster. I feel like that's going to be a ding on his legacy. They're going to call him a ring chaser, and honestly, kind of fair after this one.
Isn't it crazy? Like, there was one play that changed, like, the course of the NBA for a decade. Like, not even, like, with Steph's legacy, LeBron's legacy, because I feel like my biggest memory with LeBron is him going back into Cleveland. This is probably peak of me just hating LeBron, rooting against him. Like, you're in high school, you have all the hormones raging, so like didn't want him to win at all, and then was definitely rooting for Steph Curry and the Warriors. And we were saved from probably LeBron being recognized as the GOAT or greatest player of all time by the majority of people, by Kelly Olynyk. It all started with the Kevin Love play where he ripped Kevin Love's shoulder out of his socket. Kevin Love is out for the finals. Kyrie Irving gets injured. And then I believe if Kevin Love or Kyrie is healthy, the Cavaliers win that championship, and then they win again probably in 16. Maybe Kevin Durant goes to the Warriors, or maybe it's actually the Thunder in the finals that year.
Yeah, that's a big moment. I mean, 2015, his number 2 after that was Matthew Dellavedova, trying his best to guard Steph Curry. God willingly, prime Steph Curry having Matthew Dellavedova, that's tough. But, I mean, you're right. At that point, he wins 2 rings in Cleveland. He has 2 rings in Miami, gets a ring eventually with the Lakers. Does he end up leaving the Cavs at that point as early as he did? Because he left in 2019. It's a big thing. I also think, like, 2016, the way that the series just kind of melted down for the Warriors, that's why they ended up getting Kevin Durant. I also think another shot that kind of changed it for him was Kevin Durant's go from ahead 3. And I want to say it was game 1 of the 2017 finals after they had that J.R. Smith meltdown as well. That played a part, but it's just crazy how one thing can just change all of the NBA landscape.
Just Kelly Olynyk yanking out Kevin Love's shoulder, and then a decade of basketball will never be the same. I feel like that's one of the biggest injuries. Like Kelly Olynyk, and now he's on the Spurs, so maybe that's why LeBron didn't go to San Antonio.
A little salty there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of all of his, I guess LeBron's announcements, I think Miami was probably had like the biggest shockwaves. What do you think's the most underrated LeBron switch up, though?
Underrated LeBron switch up. I think the Lakers one was just from a mile away. Like, we all knew it. LeBron, the Miami one, had the decision. I feel like it's Cleveland, though. When him going back to Cleveland, I feel like there was people talking about him going to New York, to Brooklyn, all these other places. I think they were even floating around the Lakers at the time as well. When he ended up signing with Cleveland, and then preceding that, they trade Anthony Bennett and Andrew Wiggins to the Timberwolves. That Timberwolves team then eventually gets Jimmy Butler. I would say when he joins the Cavs a second time, all of these dominoes start to fall. With all these different trades, Kevin Love is now a Cav. That Timberwolves team gets Karl Anthony Towns. They then form Jimmy Butler. Then they get all these other teams in the East start making these big moves. They get Kyle Lowry, the Raptors do. So I would say that one probably is the most underrated for his decisions. And it also got him out of the villain era and into the hero era that he's in now, I guess.
Yeah, hero curious definitely for some people. Yeah, so I think that one's interesting. I think this one's definitely fun though. Like I think this is gonna be a fun NBA season, especially if we have like a Heat Sixers rematch. If Kawhi is healthy, if Jason Tatum can get back to himself, and we get a real Paul George, I mean, like the Celtics defensively match up with this team. So I think Halliburton's back. Do you see they're bringing back the pinstripes next year for the Pacers? So they're gonna have
That's
like
disgusting.
Reggie Miller era pinstripe uniforms for the Pacers. I think that'll be really cool. So I do think this NBA season coming up, we really only have a month and then preseason starts. So the NBA season turns around pretty fast, like right there with baseball. So definitely interested to see what happens next. And then the NFL is pretty much in its twilight era where we're getting all of the crime out of the way. We had Tony Romo get arrested, and then the Commanders tight end coach also had a DUI, and he got arrested as well. Learned some sad news, though, that Kyle Shanahan apparently got into a pretty bad car accident in San Francisco, and then he has missed some time with the team. It's going to be a little bit limited in some of the OTA activities coming up here in August.
Yeah, prayers for Kyle Shanahan. Got in a pretty nasty car accident. I don't know the full details, but seems like he did get some injuries from it and recovering from that. So prayers out to him and the Shanahan family.
Yeah, and then pretty much other than that, and then Eric Bieniemy's wife, also prayers up for him. Terrible situation going on with Eric Bieniemy and his family. So definitely prayers up to him. Definitely going through a lot, especially when you're in a different state. That has to be horrifying. And then on a lighter note, speaking of horrifying, we just had maybe one of the best speeches of a new head coach of all time. Like when you think of like Dan Campbell biting off kneecaps here, well, get excited for the new New York Giants because John Harbaugh made his debut, and you sent this over to me, but I feel like people just need to see how scary the Giants are going to be. So,
welcome, man. Good to see everybody here. You excited?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
A
sir.
little nervous?
Nope.
A little nervous? A little nervous, man. Nervous? Excited nervous, you know? Nervous like a full of game almost, man.
he kind of sounds like Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You're in front of the New York Giants.
The Giants.
The New York Giants.
New York football Giants.
In this room. The New York Giants. Wow. It's an honor. It's an honor to stand in front of this room right now. And I know those coaches back there feel the same way, right, coaches?
Certainly.
It's an honor, man.
Yep.
We've been working, haven't we? We've been working early, we were late, getting ready for today. Today. Sitting in this chair, this seat, getting to work, getting started, our beginning. Because this is where it all begins, together.
Boy, does that make me want to run into a brick wall.
We're here. We've been training.
You know
for
what
this.
sucks? You know
Go
what
ahead.
sucks about this video? Is like, why couldn't this video come out when we were doing our predictions for the Giants this year? Because we were pretty optimistic on the Giants this year. But after watching that, I'm like, is this, I mean, and maybe it's an overreaction, but with those type of press conferences, we've seen it before. We have go all the way back to the Cardinals coach, Murph from Impractical Jokers, who took the bus today. And the opposite effect of that, we've seen Dan Campbell and his speeches that he had in his training camp on Hard Knocks. The speech is not nothing. And when you have a speech like this where he's just like, we're the New York Giants. We're the Giants. We do the we're in the New York Giants. We're the Giants. Did you guys know we were the Giants? We're the Giants. Like, nobody in the room, like, the entire room was crickets. Not a single chirp. Even the coaches are like, yeah, whatever, John. Whatever you're saying. Whatever. No big deal. That is not nothing. And I know it's the first day, and maybe they'll turn things around, but everyone's just like, yep, we're the Giants. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of us have been on this team already. Yep. Pretty cool. That's a bad sign. That's a team that I was super high on because they got a coach that isn't bald, Maybe they'll turn their future around. I don't know. John Harbaugh, he's been good for the Ravens, but sometimes those second stops aren't always as favorable.
Yeah. And watching that, I really didn't realize how much he sounded like Joe Biden. I don't know if it's because he was in Maryland for so long. Well, he's from like Delaware, but same idea. But just the way he's like, wow, come on, man. We're here. We're a place. We're a team with coaches and players and practice. And we're the Giants. Jack, do you like ice cream? I like ice cream.
But, like, this John Harbaugh thing also is like, when I hear that, I remind myself the fact that he has the most blown 14-point leads by any coach in NFL history. On top of the fact that his time in Baltimore, you had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Yes, Joe Flacco was a Hall of Famer. He's an elite quarterback. The president said so. And you had Lamar Jackson, who's one of the most gifted quarterbacks of all time, whether or not passing the football or not. And you have amounted for 1 Super Bowl. You had Joe Flacco with that defense going a generational run. And outside of that, your team has consistently choked in the postseason. That is not nothing.
He's like Doc Rivers with a voice.
He's like Doc Rivers with hair and vocal cords.
Come on. It's like...
Come on!
It's like if you put, like, if Lightning McQueen was giving a speech as Joe Biden. Like, it sounds like a mix of Owen Wilson and Joe Biden. Like, and he's doing this trope. I do this sometimes where if you don't know what to say, you're improvising it. You just, like, repeat what you're saying and then pause and then be like, yeah.
The Giants.
We've been preparing since January for this. You gotta coach. Especially the coaching staff wasn't like,
yeah, we're the Giants.
I feel like when Dan Campbell is giving a speech to his players, they're all like, yeah. Like, there's some interaction. I feel like when you see a team that's like, this team's going to go on a run next year, this team's going to be great, the coach will be saying something and be like, You, like, kind of hear, like, the murmurs in the background, like, yeah. Every team's, like, ready to get going, and this Giants team's like, yeah, so we're actually not the New York Giants. We're more like the East Rutherford, New Jersey Giants. We've been here for a couple of years, and every year has kind of sucked. So, and, you know,
Yeah.
The Ravens haven't been great either.
For what they are and what they've had, I would agree. It's just like you're talking to a Giants team that, like, since the Banana Boat era or since the Odell era of the Giants, they've been miserable to watch outside of the one fluky year with Daniel Jones. So telling you to all these teams like, oh my God, we're the Giants. Like, if this was 1992, everyone would be ecstatic to hear that. Or even if it was 2008, post Super Bowl, yeah, everyone would be rowdy. But this team, since their Super Bowl, haven't done anything the last 20 years. And you're like, we're the Giants. It's like, that doesn't carry any weight anymore. Like, nobody cares. The Seahawks, you tell them it's the Seahawks, you're like, hell yeah. The Rams, yes. Even the Lions, who haven't won anything, they're like, hell yeah, we're the Lions. Detroit, Mill City, yes. New York, it's like, yeah, we're the Giants. We were good 30 years ago. We had that one helmet catch that defies that era of football. We won a Super Bowl twice against Tom Brady, but that was 20 years ago. So here's the Giants now. We have Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterby. We haven't been good since when? I don't know. Since 2011, probably. 15 years of poverty. Doesn't mean much.
Even when we won Super Bowls, we weren't good in the regular season. We were
Wild
above
card
average.
teams.
Yeah, wild card teams. We were above average, but we weren't good. We just got hot.
Now, I am curious, like,
Translated.
I'm curious if next year, because we all know Aaron Glenn's not going to be the coach for the Jets after this year. So when the new coach for the Jets comes around, if they're going to be like, hey, we're the New York Jets. Hey, we're the New York Jets. Like, I'm ready for that one. And everyone's going to go like, yeah, we're the New York Jets. We're the Jets. And the Giants, they kind of have the same, not quite as bad as the Jets, but they have the same stigma. It's like, yeah, we're the Giants. Like, what does that mean exactly? The Philadelphia Eagles have won 2 Super Bowls. Cowboys, maybe they haven't won a Super Bowl, but they've been consistently relevant for the most part. Even the Commanders made it to the NFC title game. The Giants are just like, we won 2 Super Bowls we probably shouldn't have over the last 20 years.
Yeah, we defied the odds, beat an undefeated team, defied the odds twice with Eli Manning. Eli Manning led the league in interceptions 3 times, I believe, and was pretty bad.
4.
And then you had suffered through the Daniel Jones era. Brian Daboll gave you hope. You actually won a playoff game, and then you immediately just sucked again. So this team, I don't know. Did you see Mike Vrabel walk into the New England Patriots locker room last year and be like, "Guess what, guys? We're the New England Patriots, guys.
That would have meant more.
Today because we
got tomorrow
for today, not tomorrow, today, and then tomorrow. But guess what?
But also tomorrow.
We're the New England Patriots."
And that would have worked because the Patriots, what have they done? Much more than the Giants. But you can't be a losing franchise of the last 15 years and go, come on, we're the Giants. We had Lawrence Taylor 50 years ago. We had Kerry Collins 30 years ago. It's like, okay, that's great. Anyways, moving on. What are we now? We're nothing. And maybe that changes with John Harbaugh, but not a good start, to say the least.
Yeah, not a good start, but transition. There's some players in week 1 that are hoping to have a good start. Wow, what a transition. On Wednesday, September 9th, there will be a Super Bowl rematch, and we're going to go through the most anticipated week 1 debuts for this NFL season. So, number 1, we have A.J. Brown against the Seattle Seahawks.
Exciting. I'm excited to see it. I think him and Drake May, they seem to be doing well in training camp so far. Getting a little bit of adversity, finally going to get some more carries and targets for him for the Patriots. So I'm excited to see it. I think he is going to return to form, the A.J. Brown that we've seen in years past. So this will be a good start.
And then on Thursday night in Melbourne, Myles Garrett is making his debut with the Rams.
And the city of Melbourne should be horrified to witness this man in action. Whatever, I don't know who they're facing. We'll find out later, but the carnage. The Niners. Well, the Niners fans. They already, as long as it's not at Levi Stadium, maybe there's a chance.
And then on Sunday, September 13th, Jalen Phillips makes his debut with the Carolina Panthers. Their huge offseason signing. And then they're going up against the Chicago Bears. But thoughts on Jalen Phillips making his debut with the Panthers? And then we kind of get to figure out, is this going to be a coin flip team this year that makes the playoffs with the losing record? Or is their defense actually kind of legit now?
Jalen Phillips is a good player, and I think stealing him from the Bears is good. They've come a long way from the Eagles stole it from. Okay, well the Eagles also have a great defense, so they're gonna like to see him there. Post A.J. Brown should still be interesting. Eagles should still definitely be in that Super Bowl bubble, so that'll be exciting to see.
All right, so Jalen Phillips from the Eagles goes to the Panthers. He will be facing the Bears, so it should be an interesting game. And then Tampa at Cincinnati, but we get to see Dexter Lawrence make his Bengals debut. If this doesn't get you fired up for week 1, I don't know what else will, because finally the Bengals actually put together a decent defense, and now they have Dexter Lawrence and Boye Mafe. So if they had a good draft, the Bengals actually might be sneaky Super Bowl favorites, to be honest, and I might be leaning that direction at this point in the AFC.
Yeah, the big thing is, is their secondary solid? They did make those 2 additions, which are huge for them. Their offense has never been the problem, let it be known. It's, can Joe Burrow stay healthy, and can their defense get a stop? And if they can do that, then they're going to be a lot better. And if they can wake up in September, those are the big things for them. But those 2 additions hopefully will help them. So I think that's going to be exciting for them. I'm excited to see the Bengals.
Is it Wake Me Up in September, though, or is it Wake Me Up when September ends? So
that's the song for the Green Day, for Green Day, but for really it should just be Wake Me Up when September starts for the Bengals. Because believe it or not, hot take, September, a lot of games playing in September. Starting off 0-4 hasn't helped you the last 3 years, so maybe wake up in September. Have a winning record.
Yeah, and don't. Well, Joe Burrow, it's not for him. He's just one of those players that seems to attract injuries. Like you have players who are super durable, and then you just have players who they just get injured, and it's kind of what they do. So if we get a healthy Joe Burrow this year, hopefully this team is finally like doing something again in the playoffs. And then after the Bengals, we have Jordan Tyson making his debut with the Saints against the Detroit Lions at Ford Field.
I am so excited for Jordan Tyson. I think he's going to be a stud. I think by the end of the season, we could be talking about wide receiver 1, Jordan Tyson, Chris Olave, wide receiver 2. This guy's the real deal. He was a stud at ASU, and I think he's going to be a stud for New Orleans.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see him. Tyler Show, I think, is also going to be really good. We're high on the Saints next year as a sleeper team to win that division. So I'm excited to see them get kicked off, and I think they have some good momentum carrying into the season from the end of last year. And then the next one is Buffalo at Houston. So all they could come up with was DJ Moore.
That's their number one. Josh Allen finally gets help because he's never had help before. And now he gets DJ Moore, the guy that dropped it in the postseason game. He's their big fish. So, wasn't overly impressive with him in Chicago. And I feel like in Carolina, he was a bit overrated. So not a big DJ Moore fan on this show, at least for me. So congratulations, but I'm not overly excited for the Buffalo.
Yeah, I actually think DJ Moore is going to be really good. Especially just think about how good Josh Allen made Brandon Cooks look last season when we were kind of like, that's like a nothing signing. And I do think DJ Moore has something left in the tank. They're just going in a different direction. Maybe don't necessarily. He doesn't really fit in Chicago anymore, but I do think with Buffalo, he definitely fits. And you have Khalil Shakur, and I don't know. Everyone's talking about how Josh Allen doesn't have help, but didn't he have the best running back in the league last year? So it's like he still has a really good running back core. He has 2 solid tight ends as well. So I do think the Bills should again be right there next year. And they should have an opportunity to get it done. But I do think DJ Moore should help this team.
Definitely should help.
And then the Ravens and Colts, number 1 debut is Trey Hendrickson. Remember when Max Crosby was going to be a Raven? And then the Ravens realized, oh, wait, no one wants Trey Hendrickson? Actually, he failed his physical. We're signing Trey Hendrickson. Goodbye. Give us our first-round picks back.
Click. And I think it's hilarious that Max Crosby's just still a Raider. Still now. Even after they traded him to Baltimore. And now he's rapping. That's what happens when you stay in Vegas too long. But Trey Hendrickson in Baltimore, that's going to be huge for them. And who did you say they were facing in week 1? You said Houston? The Colts. Okay. Discuss.
Rip Daniel Jones.
Rip Daniel Jones and potentially Anthony Richardson.
I still need him to be a Jet by the end of the year.
It's not impossible.
And then the first offensive lineman people are excited to debut is the Browns at Jaguars. All they could come up with was Spencer Fano, offensive lineman for the Browns. So I'm going to ignore that, pretend it didn't happen.
What happened? I don't even, congrats. Offensive tackle. Spencer Fano is the key. Hey, man, they're the Cleveland Browns. That's a big deal. Remember that. We're the Cleveland Browns. Let it be known.
We're going to go out there, play good football, and we're going to play hard.
The dog pound.
And then the next one is the Falcons at Steelers. They have 2 for Pittsburgh because the last one was a tackle. And they have Michael Pittman and Jamel Dean.
Okay. Michael Pittman I'm excited for. I do think he'll be a nice addition to Pittsburgh, but Jamel Dean, I feel like Jamel Dean's a little bit older now at this point. Isn't he in his 30s? So that's exciting, but how much more Jamel Dean will we see? Michael Pittman, though, pairing him with DK, that's going to be good for Aaron Rodgers. I'm excited for Aaron Rodgers. His last 2 Raw has two good receivers. Which one will be more consistent? I feel like Michael Pittman's going to be the more consistent option for him.
Yeah, so that will definitely be something to see in Week 1's red zone window. And then we have the Jets and Titans, and all they could come up with is David Bailey, another rookie outside linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, he was the second overall pick. He could be a stud for the Titans, so I'm excited to see him. And then the Jets made a few moves as well. They got Arvell Reese and Kenny and Sadiq as well, so they should be fun. We'll see. It's the Jets.
It would be awesome if the Jets cook next year, to be honest. Like, as bad as they were last year, but it would also be funny if they were somehow worse and they got a lot better.
And still didn't have an interception, even though they got Micah.
And then the next game is Cardinals at Chargers. West Coast battle here. Which team will have less fans? And then Jeremiah Love, obviously. He's already cooking in practice.
As much as he can with that offensive line. I'm excited for Jeremiah Love. I feel like it might take him a couple of weeks to get his legs under him, but when he does, come like the end of the season, come fantasy playoffs, I think Jeremiah Love is going to be a stud for a long time.
And then next game is Miami and the Raiders, and guess who they have for this game? Who are you most excited to see debut on a new team for Miami and Vegas?
Malik Willis and Mendoza, I'm assuming?
Just Malik Willis.
Just Malik Willis. Not the number 1 overall pick, Francisco Mendoza. Not the future of the Raiders. Malik Willis. Congratulations. He's going to throw to another Malik Washington. That's his main guy. And Jalen Tolbert. Malik to Malik action, let me tell you. Willis to Washington. We'll be saying those names a lot.
Yeah, honestly, the Dolphins just need to pay off Antonio Brown's debt and let him play at this point.
I support.
And then Green Bay at Minnesota. Obviously, it's Kyler Murray.
I'm excited for that.
Washington and Philadelphia. They have Mekhi Lemon, another rookie.
Yeah, filling in for A.J. Brown. We'll see if it's the Traylon Burks inverse edition or if he's ended up being the full legitimate replacement for him. They successfully drafted Devontae Smith, so maybe their wide receiver jinx is over, but we'll see. He wasn't a guy I was as high on in the draft, but what do I know?
Yeah, I feel like Philadelphia is going to be a really interesting team this year because I don't think like you can get to 2 Super Bowls like in 4 years, lose A.J. Brown, and then suddenly fall apart, right? Like, that shouldn't make sense here. So I do think they do have a track record of turning things around.
Yeah. Will they make the Super Bowl again? I don't know. I feel like there's other teams that are maybe better, but I feel like they're a well-run organization. They have probably the best GM in football. They have their franchise quarterback. Their defense has a lot of great players there. Devontae Smith is there. Saquon Barkley is there. There's a lot of reason for me to invest in the Eagles this year and be confident that I'm making the right purchase. So I support the Eagles and what they do this year.
All right, and then 2 more here. Last one, we have Cowboys at Giants. They have Caleb Downs from Ohio. They're trying to figure out if Dallas has a secondary in Week 1.
Maybe not the best way to test it. Week 1's the worst, way to judge a team, but I think he is going to be a stud for them. And their defense should be a lot better. Last year, post Micah Parsons, they definitely missed him, but they made some additions in the offseason. Maybe they have a defense. They definitely have an offense. So that Cowboys team, that's an interesting team right there. We'll see what happens. We'll see how good that secondary really is, but I'm excited to see how they are. Definitely in the playoff bubble right now for Dallas.
Honestly, Cowboys-Bills Super Bowl would be awesome.
Especially if the Cowboys won. I hate to say it. Like, who do I deserve to see win more? Like, what would be funnier for the NFL? Like, Josh Allen finally gets to the Super Bowl, finally beats Mahomes, beats Burrow, beats Lamar, makes it to the Super Bowl against the lowly Cowboys who haven't won since VHS tapes, and then Dak Prescott is a Super Bowl champion. So is George Pickens. So is all the other guys. It's like, boy, the NFL, ever since the Seahawks won last year, I'm like, we live in a new NFL where Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl MVP. And
Where
before he
Kenneth
was
Walker's
considered the
MVP.
biggest draft bust. Yeah, well, Kenneth Walker, yes. But, Sam Darnold probably the playoff MVP at one point. So, respect. Anything can happen in this NFL. So, Dallas and Buffalo, and then the Cowboys win would be you basically are going to have 90% of the public rooting for the Bills, and then the 10% of the Cowboys fans that are Yankees and Lakers fans at the same time. They're going to be the internet the next day is going to be so toxic that it's going to be Chernobyl Part 2. If that is the reality.
Owe my life to Dak Prescott at that point too. I would immediately be in cowboy boots with a Dak Prescott jersey. Like, oh yeah, I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life. I love Dak Prescott. He beat Josh.
I'm
Allen
from
in the
Dallas.
Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm from Dallas.
Yeah, I'm from
not
Dallas.
really.
I live in Austin.
I'm actually from Plano.
I'm from Arlington, but we call it Dallas.
We call it Dallas.
I would love to see that.
It's within the DFW concrete
Metropolitan.
jungle. Metroplex, but yeah, Cowboys and Bills, it just makes sense in the Super Bowl next year.
I support it. It'd be funny. We all know the world is rooting for the Bills to make it. I think everyone, all of the NFL fans seems to be rooting for the Bills to make it. And we've been rooting for that the last decade. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah, but we'll see if it happens next year. Cardinals, though, are a team that has been trying to make a Super Bowl, trying to win a Super Bowl. They've actually been the worst team in the league. So we are going to preview the NFC West, and I feel like we might as well start from the bottom with the Arizona Cardinals and then potentially make our way up, because every other team could possibly win the division this year. But Arizona Cardinals, you're picking every game this year. What do you think when you hear Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett finally agree on a deal?
I think it's hilarious, the fact that everyone makes these like Mount Rushmores, who's the most dysfunctional franchise, and it's always the Jets and the Browns, and the Hornets are thrown up there sometimes, and in baseball it's the Mets, but nobody, that you're a pathetic franchise, and the peak of dysfunctionality when you're so pathetic that nobody even recognizes you because you fall below the pathetic radar. And the newest low is the fact that Jacoby Brissett, who is a career backup, by the way, he was a third string for the Patriots. Then obviously he's bounced around to a million other teams, and now he finds himself in the great state of Arizona. And the fact that he's like, you know what? I know that this team is going to be really bad, and I know that this could be potentially the last time that I am able to start. You guys are going to pay me an extra $15 million this year because I'm not going to play for $5 million because I'm going to be the starter. You need to pay me $15 million. And the Cardinals, looking at their options of him or Gardner Minshew, they're like, shit, I guess we got to pay him $15 million or he's not going to be our quarterback. Or else, instead of being a 3-win team, we might just be a 2-win team. So only the Cardinals would this have happened. If this was, you could have literally just pinpointed on any other team in the NFL and you drop them there. Jacoby Brissett is unemployed the next day. Arizona, though, suddenly he's making $15 million more than he was before. So that's where I'm at with the Cardinals. Only the Cardinals can get bullied by Jacoby Brissett.
But what if I told you that Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt LaFleur, has signed a 5-year contract, and his strategic shift is going to be implementing a West Coast Shanahan-style offense with multi-back rotations, an athletic interior line, and safe play-action passing lanes. So very safe for Jacoby Brissett, focusing on the running backs. They got a couple running backs this year, and then most notably Jeremiah Love now. So they also have a 99 tight end now in Madden. So,
yeah.
I mean, their offense isn't half bad if Carson Beck is one of those Dak Prescott type players.
Yeah. The thing is that really sucks for the Cardinals is, for one thing, every single game is an away game for them. That's one. That's the floor of it all. And the fact that they're the second team in their own state and ASU reigns supreme. How even U of A reigns supreme over them. That's the second thing. But also, just looking at the team itself, your quarterback situation is Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck. Carson Beck we probably won't see until later this year. But if this is his strategy, like a multi-back setting, he looks like it's going to be a lot more safe play action, easy playbook for Carson Beck. Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, Kendrick Bourne, Trey McBride. Okay, that's fun. Jeremiah Love, Tyler Algier, what's left of James Conner. That's fun. Their offense should be, I would say, like below average, but a fun team. But the problem is their defense. Like, who was on their defense? Like, I know they have Budda Baker, who's now, 32 at this point? He's old. He's an old player. He's played a lot. And then Josh Sweat they did get from, I believe, the Bears. So that's a little bit more exciting. The rest of that defense, not impressed at all. And they're in the division with the MVP of Matt Stafford. They have Sam Darnold, who just won the Super Bowl. And you have Brock Purdy, who Kyle Shanahan has just figured out how to make him a top 10 quarterback in the league. So that's the problem with the Cardinals. They're not going to win a single game in their division. And they're, at best, probably winning 4 games this year.
Yeah,
when it's all said and done.
Potentially win more. We'll take a look at their schedule, though. But I think it'll be interesting because I do think you have exciting pieces on offense there. So you definitely never know, especially with a team like this. But for fantasy owners, beware of Jeremiah Love with Tyler Algier in the same backfield. He's like learn the same lesson with him in Atlanta, splitting carries. But now you also have him doing the same exact thing to Jeremiah Love here. But they start out the year on the road in LA and face off against the Chargers.
And the Chargers take that game.
Okay. So they are now 0-1 to start the season. Then they go back home and face the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks.
And they're not going to beat anybody in this division. They can't beat anybody in this division historically. So Seahawks, they lose to.
Okay. And then they go to San Francisco.
And they lose.
Okay. And then they go to who? The New York Giants.
The New York
Giants.
Hey. They're the New York Giants. Okay? Hey. They're the New York Giants. New York Giants are victorious in week 4.
Okay. New York Giants are victorious. And then they go back home to face the Lions.
Restore the roar, baby. Lions get that win.
Okay. All right. And then after that, they go to LA to face the Rams.
Not a lot of games the Rams are losing this year, and those games are not going to be against the Cardinals.
And it doesn't get easier because the next week they host Denver.
Jalen Waddle, Bo Nix, Sean Payton. That's a tough team. I don't see them beating Denver.
And then one team they can beat, they get to go to Dallas.
So let's just take a step back for a minute. They are now 0-7. They've gotten beaten up by everybody in their division at this point. Detroit's got a lick on them. The New York Giants gets a win against them. So does the LA Chargers. However, the Cowboys, for some reason, I don't know what sort of witchcraft is going on in the NFL, Cowboys cannot beat the Cardinals to save their life. They are 2-8 in the last 10 games, and if you go all the way back to the 2000s, they just cannot beat the Cardinals. And even though the Cardinals are 0-7, they are now 1-7 after week 8.
All right. So now they are 1-7. The curse lives on for Dallas, and then after that they go to Seattle.
And I don't think they beat Seattle in any game.
Okay. It's another 1-8. Back to losing again, and then they go to kind of home in Glendale to face the Rams.
That is not home for them. There's a lot of Rams fans. It's going to be mostly Rams in that attendance. I think the Rams take the win there.
Okay, but then they go to Kansas City and face the Chiefs.
If Mahomes' Achilles is, or if his something going on with Patrick Mahomes, maybe, but in the current state of things, I'll take the Super Bowl MVP and Patrick Mahomes to take the win there.
Yeah, I'll take Justin Fields to take the win there too. And
Yep.
then they go back home and face the Commanders. Surely they can beat the Commanders, right?
That's a winnable game on this schedule, but I have a plan, so I'm going to take the Commanders to beat them.
So you're going to take the Commanders to beat them. All right. And then after that, they host Philadelphia in a 3-game homestand. So it's the second of 3 games at home.
There's a lot of Philly fans in the state of Arizona. I think there's going to be a lot of people in attendance there. Philly is vying for the playoffs and potentially their division. I'll take Philly to beat them.
And then your plan is for them to beat the Jets and lose out on the. They host
you
the
know
Jets
well.
the next week after
And
a
then-
bye too.
After
So-
a bye, tickets as low as $29 as of now, and I think that they lose to the Jets. And potentially, Jacoby Brissett gives the Jets their first interception in almost 2 years.
They lose to the Jets. Oh wow.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That took
no.
a twist. They
No,
beat
no, no.
the Jets.
I'm sorry, they beat the Jets, but Jacoby Brissett gives them their first interception in 2 years.
Okay. I like
So they're
it.
now coming along.
And then they go to New Orleans to face the Saints at 2-12.
At 2-12, I think this is where it gets interesting because like week 16, the Saints are probably really hot. I'll take the Saints beating them, but I think this is going to be a closer game than we think. This is when I think the Cardinals start to piece things together for next year.
Yeah, it's when Carson Beck starts to play, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe we should have done that the whole time." And
Little
then
Mr.
after
Danger.
that, they go back to Glendale to face the Raiders.
A lot of Raiders fans there taking that drive. I actually think they're going to beat the Raiders here in week 17. I think they're going to start getting some wins. Maybe it's the Commanders instead of the Raiders, whoever it may be, but by the time week 18 rolls around, they got 3 wins on their belt.
Okay, so now they're 3-13, and then face the 49ers in the last week of the season.
Last week of the season, who was the backup for the Niners? Let's take a look. Mac Jones. You know what? They beat Mac Jones in week 18.
Whoa,
And
you
they-
hate Mac Jones that much? Are you kidding me? You don't think Mac Jones wants to get paid? So you take the 4-13 Cardinals next year.
And we can swap that Niners game with maybe the Washington game, but either way, I think they win 4 games. I don't think their roster is as bad as Vegas is saying. A lot of bets you can do, like under 2.5 and all this stuff and whatever else. I don't think the Cardinals, when I look at their roster objectively, obviously it's a little bit tougher because they have a really tough division, but I can talk myself into Jeremiah Love as long as he's not the next Ashton Genty. I think Marvin Harrison is probably not the guy that they drafted him to be, but if he can be like a number 2, I can sell myself on him. Michael Wilson's a nice receiver. Trey McBride is probably the best tight end in football right now. Their offensive line they've made strides for. Really, it's just a lot of these players on their defense, I don't even know who they are half of the time. Zaven Collins has been solid for him. Their corners I'm a little worried about, but towards the end of the season, can they pick things up? Sure. And I can talk myself into the Cardinals getting hot towards the end of the season. But they can't win any more than 4 games. I think 5 wins is the absolute ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think 5. It'll be interesting. They play a lot of tough teams, but I definitely think they'll win more than one divisional game next year. And I could see them being a really fun team, especially with how much talent they have on offense. So I could definitely see them getting into some shootouts and playing some upset ball. I mean, it would be typical Lions to, like, go to Arizona and lose in just a game where the offense just can't get going. And then their defense randomly gets shredded. So I could definitely see some games where the Cardinals, like, just outrace people.
Yeah, I just don't know what their offensive line is going to look like. And Jacoby Brissett last year was 1-11 with them. and so I don't think he's going to bring them over there. I don't trust Gardner Minshew. And Carson Beck, he's the one I'm interested to see, but we're not going to probably see him until their season's already over, most likely. So that's why I think they'll win some games at the end. But Cardinals, they're fun. I think they have a lot of improvement that they need to get and see. But they have a new coach. I think Mike LaFleur is the right hire for them. But I just don't think there's enough. They have too tough of a division, and I just think their roster's not there yet. So they should be the worst.
All right. And then we have the Rams up next here. For the Rams, they had a really good offseason, actually. They got probably the two best players available on defense here. Went out there, drafted Ty Simpson, drafted another wide receiver. They extended both Les Snead and Sean McVay, and then they also gave Matthew Stafford a new deal as well. Puka Nacua is in rehab, but Aaron Donald is also, coming back in for a workout just to see how he feels, because it wouldn't be crazy at all to have Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett on the same defensive line. That wouldn't be unfair, because Aaron Donald seemed like he had a lot of football left in him when he retired.
Yeah, no kidding. And we saw what he did with Von Miller. Respect to Von Miller, but Myles Garrett at the peak of his powers, I think might be a little better at this point. So that would be disgusting. Never mind the fact that they also have some other players like the Braden Fisks of the world, Trent McDuffie they just got in their trade with the Chiefs as well. So they're loaded. Obviously, we already know Jalen Watson too. So especially with what they have on offense, this team, do you think of? A lot of people are putting them as the Super Bowl favorites in the West. Do you think that they are, or the NFC? Do you think that they belong in that bubble as like the best team, or in the bubble with maybe a few others? Do you think should they be Super Bowl favorites?
Yeah, I think they should be right there. They played two really close games with Seattle, and they left a lot of opportunities on the field. So I think the Rams are going to see a lot of the mistakes that they made in the playoffs last year, and then that'll help them make adjustments, because if you look at that Panthers game, it easily could have gone the other way, and they could have been eliminated in the first round. They got some luck against Chicago with DJ Moore slipping, and then just, Chicago's head coach losing his mind and going for it every single time, where if they just took the points, they probably lose to Chicago, and then they didn't score in the fourth quarter against Seattle. So I do think there's a lot of room for them to improve, and they have this offseason, especially adding someone like Myles Garrett. They went all out with Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie, so I definitely think their defense is going to have a lot more force this year. And then Matthew Stafford got his MVP, and if he now has an MVP and he gets 2 Super Bowls, he's putting himself in a much different class. So I think for him and Sean McVay, this year is definitely Super Bowl or bust. So I do think the Rams will be locked in this season.
All right. Well, their season starts on Thursday Night Football against the 49ers on Netflix. How did they start their season?
Just with everything going on right now, with Kyle Shanahan and that whole situation, I think it's definitely tough. I mean, they ran out of, this is going to sound bad, but San Francisco ran out of players to get injured, so now even their head coach isn't safe. So it hurts. It hurts me to say it, but it had to be said. And I definitely think that's going to affect the 49ers to start the season. So I do think the Rams win.
All right, so they are now 1-0, on track for 17-0. They have to go week 2. First, they have a primetime game on Thursday, and then they have a bit of a mini bye. But then on Monday night, not only are they going to or hosting New York, they're hosting the New York Giants. The New York Giants. Hey, they're the New York Giants. Week 2, New York Giants. Say their name.
Yeah,
How does this turn out?
The Giants blow a 14-point lead. How about that?
All right, Giants below 14-point lead. I like that. Below 14-point lead. I'm going to write this down because we've been right a lot recently. recently, meaning the last 5 years, but, we don't brag. Nonetheless, so primetime game in week 1, primetime game in week 2, and guess what? Week 3 is a primetime game. And they go to Denver, the Mile High, which I will be there 1 week from today. Nonetheless, Broncos, Rams, outcome.
I think the Broncos win. I think we see some sluggish games from the Rams sometimes. Denver's a tough place to play. It's a pretty even matchup, so I'll give the edge to the home team.
Did you know Denver has a higher elevation?
Really?
They call it the Mile High City because they're a mile high in elevation. I learned that somewhere. Anyways, week 4 against the Eagles in Philadelphia. This is just a 1:00 game. Their primetime era is over for now.
Yeah, the Eagles used to kind of eat their lunch. The Rams are kind of turning that back around. So I will take the Rams to win this one.
All right. And then another primetime game for them. Have a lot of those this year. And this time it's Monday Night Football, Bills-Rams in SoFi.
In SoFi? Yeah, I have to go with the Rams is what my head is telling me.
All right. The Bills hater has come out. And then week 6 against the Cardinals, the lowly Cardinals.
Week 6, yeah, you had them beating the Cardinals. Can't disagree there.
And then they get to go 4 hours to their west and take on the Raiders in Raider Stadium.
Yeah, I think they beat the Raiders.
I was going to
Pretty
say,
easy
don't tell me
schedule.
that. So far. And then they don't even go that far again. They go 4 hours back west to LA to host the Chargers in their own stadium, the Chargers and Rams.
And this is the game where Justin Herbert doesn't come out as a top 5 quarterback and he loses to the Rams.
But hey, he's dating a supermodel, basically.
He's living the
Supermodel
dream.
pop star.
Can't hate.
Good for him. He's a good stay-at-home wife. And then week 9, Jaden Daniels hosts the great Matt Stafford after they have a 5-game winning streak at this point.
Yeah, and they win that game too. This is kind of a joke of a schedule, to be honest, for them. This is really easy.
It gets a little bit harder the second half of the season, but before their bye, they go to Arizona, where there's going to be a lot of Rams fans.
Yeah, and they win that one, and they're 9-1 heading into their bye.
9-1 before bye, which makes sense. And then they have their bye. And then their schedule does get a little bit tougher now, because now for, I believe this is their Thanksgiving game. It looks like it's a Wednesday the 25th, so they're trying all these weird Wednesday games out. Neither way, Wednesday, they host Green Bay in SoFi on Netflix.
Yeah, that is Jordan Love's time, actually, so the Rams lose.
Lose to the Packers. And then they, very shortly after, go on Thursday night and host Patrick Mahomes.
I think the Rams beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs
All
will
right.
be better next year, but I don't know how much better they really got, compared to what they were last year. I'm still kind of concerned. You have Kenneth Walker now, but what if he just signs a bag and disappears? We've seen running backs do this before. It's not uncommon.
I would say it's more common than not. But they beat the Chiefs, and then they go to Levi Stadium to take on the Niners.
Yeah, and I think they usually split with the Niners, so I will have the Niners beating them. This time, handing them their third loss. Now they're 10-3.
All right. And then they host the Cowboys.
Host the Cowboys, and I will. Sometimes they get into a little bit of a funk here. I think this is one of those cases, so I will have the Cowboys beating the Rams here. Sometimes the Rams kind of just fall asleep. Remember when they lost to Atlanta last year?
Oh, yeah. All too well. Which made a lot of people money there. And then they have Christmas in Seattle. against the defending champs, Sam Darnold versus Matt Stafford, Week 16.
Ew. Christmas in Seattle? I mean, not getting snow for Christmas. We're getting rain for Christmas. But I will take the Rams to win that. I think Seattle got worse and the Rams got better this year.
All right. And then last two games are flex games, but they start by going to Tampa.
They start by going to Tampa. Does Tampa have a quarterback by then? Are they healthy? Or are they falling apart at the end of the year again? I don't know, but I will take the Rams.
And then they end the season against the Seahawks, potentially for their division, depending on how the Seahawks play out. But at this point, they are 13-4. Or no, 12-4.
They're 12-4. I will have them finishing 13-4. They should be a game better this year than they were last year. Their schedule is a little bit easier. They're playing the NFC East, so that's definitely going to be a toss-up, and they get to play the Giants early on the season before Harbaugh can really massage his magic into that team, whatever that may be, if he can gain attention in the locker room this time. But, yeah, I think 13-4 is fair for the Rams. You add Myles Garrett, you add Jalen Watson, you add Trent McDuffie. You're 12-5 last year, so I think 13-4 is definitely reasonable, and they should be between 12 and 14 wins. Anything below that, I think, is disappointing. Like, if this is an 11-win team, like, really? You had Myles Garrett and you're worse?
Yeah, I think 13-4, 14-3 is kind of my guess for them. It's just, you do mention, like, they do kind of fall asleep either beginning of the season or the end of the season. Last year, it felt like they fell asleep at the end of the season. So maybe they turn things around this year. If Aaron Donald's there, maybe he can right the ship. But I think 13-4 is right around where they should be.
All right, so that is the Rams. So they go the inverse of the Arizona Cardinals at 13-4. And then next up is the San Francisco 49ers. Just when you thought the whole team couldn't get injured, their coach got injured as well here. The 49ers are always a little bit of a tough team to predict because you're like, okay, when is Kyle Shanahan's magic gonna run out? And then also it seems like they're always doing a plug and play, but they've stayed very consistent, so you never know if they're gonna have just one of those years where they turn into a super team or if they're just gonna be that now just 10-7, 11-6, 12-5 team every single year and then get bounced in the playoffs now. But they did add Mike Evans.
Yeah, it's hard for me. I'm historically always more pessimistic against the Niners, and I'm always wrong. So this, I'm really going to try to put them in the right category. But their offense is still great. George Kittle is a year older, which is a concern. So is Christian McCaffrey. Mike Evans is also getting up there in age, but barring all of that, I think their offense should still be a top 5 or top 10 offense in the league. And then their defense, if all those guys stay healthy, the Diamador Lenores of the world, you have the Malik Mustafas of the world, Trey Greenlaw, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. I mean, talent-wise, this team is right up there with everybody else. So I expect them to still be a playoff team this year.
Okay. And yeah, so definitely always kind of a tough team to predict here, but they started out against the Rams. I had the Rams beating them. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think just like you mentioned, the fact that, Kyle Shanahan apparently, according to reports, was this close to losing his eye. That's not great. His injury is really bad. So I think to start the season, I think losing to the Rams is inevitable.
That's crazy. So, any tooth, eye stuff, no. I'd rather just break all my ribs instead of that. And then after that, they host Miami, so that's cool, I guess.
That's a win. That's definitely a win.
All right, so now they're 1-1, and then after that, they get to go to Arizona.
And they're gonna beat them too.
Okay, so now they are 2-1, and they host Denver in a 2-game homestand.
That's a tough one. I think they start out maybe the first half of the season they struggle a little bit, and that is in Denver as well. So I will take Denver beating them. Denver should be really good this year.
Okay, And then after that, they go to Seattle.
Loud environment, starting off kind of clunky. I think they fall to Seattle as well. I think they eventually split with Seattle, but I'll take them losing in week 5.
Okay. Then they go home to face the Commanders, looks like on Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football. I don't know. Primetime, Jaden Daniels. I can see him potentially sneaking a win out there for Kyle Shanahan. Just given how I think their season will play out, I think starting 2-4 and bouncing back is possible. So I'll take them losing to the Commanders. But then they start stringing some wings together.
And then, well, speaking of wings, they go to Atlanta to face the Falcons.
Yeah, and I think between Diamador Lenore, between Trey Greenlaw, all those guys, Tua, birds are going to get clipped a little bit here. I'll take the Niners.
Okay. Or Michael Penix. We don't know yet. And
Either one.
then they
Same
go
thing.
back home and face the Raiders.
And now they're 400. And now they're back to 500. Look at that.
Wow. So after struggling out of the gate a little bit, they're 4-4, and then they go to Dallas.
And I do think they beat Dallas this time around. Maybe there's more losses in their future, but I think this is when they start to piece things together, is usually around November. So I like them against Dallas.
Well, I didn't know it was personal. Did you? And then after that, they go back home and face the Vikings.
Well, conveniently, this is November 22nd. And what comes out before November 22nd? Call of Duty. Is the Call of Duty acquisitions always going to stick? Only until they are not going to stick. And until Kyler proves it, I'm going to have him beating Minnesota.
Okay, so the COD slump hits just in time, and then they go back home and face Seattle, currently at 6-4 after starting at 2-4.
And I think that the Seahawks split with them, so I'll take them. Well, I had the Seahawks beating them the first time, so they're going to beat the Seahawks this time.
Okay, so then they're 7-4, starting to catch up to the Rams now, and then they go to New York.
The New York Giants. The New York Giants come and hoist them. How can I say no to the New York Giants? They are the New York Giants. New York Giants steals one from them. New York steals that win.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. If Jackson Dart is still alive. And so the Giants steal one from them, so now they're 7-5. And then after that, they go back home and face the Rams.
And you had them
the second time.
And I think they do the second time.
Okay. Yeah, they beat them on Thursday Night Football with Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones, so crazier things have happened. And then they go to San Diego on a Thursday night to face the Chargers. That's an odd choice, Roger.
Thursday Night Football, Chargers. I'm taking the Niners here. I don't need to explain why.
All right. Now they're 9-5, working 9 to 5. And then they go to Kansas City to face the Chiefs.
And I think they beat the Chiefs here. Some Super Bowl rematch here. I think they start to get hot towards the second half of the season. Give me the Niners here, as long as they're healthy.
Right, and then a rematch of that playoff game against Philadelphia in San Francisco.
And I seem to have this false reality that rematches always go the favor of the losing team previously, so I think they get their revenge against Philly. And maybe statistically I'm wrong. I don't know. Oh, shit. Well, shit. Then it should be the Eagles. But in this time, I'm going to reverse that and say it's usually always the team that won, so they beat Philly.
So they beat Philly. All right. I like the logic there. And then
Politician.
to finish the season, they play the Cardinals. And then you
know what?
Cardinals beating them.
I had the Cardinals beating them, and I regret it now, but fuck it. Cardinals win.
All right. So now they finish the season 11-6.
All right.
I think that makes sense.
That
One
makes
game
perfect
worse,
sense.
The Rams are one game better. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, and I also think like the Kyle Shanahan thing's a big thing. This is a team that also always, without fail, always gets hurt with injuries. Doesn't always impact them. Like we saw last year, they were still 12-5 despite it. So I think 11-6 is totally fair. Maybe they're 10-7, maybe they're 12-5, but they should be within that range.
And then we just have the Niners left. They won the Super Bowl last year. Lost a lot of players, though, in the process. They lost the Super Bowl MVP in Kenneth Walker. And now they're hoping the running back coming off knee surgery is going to fill in for them. Also drafted a running back. Went all in on Jackson Smith and Jigba as well, but they lost players like Boye Mafe in the process here. Starting to lose some of their young talent. Lost a couple key players in free agency, but overall, do you feel like Seattle will just have like a average season, kind of similar to Philadelphia did last year? Like that's kind of where I put them. Like I feel like they might not be like one of the best teams in the league or as good as they were last year, but I think they'll still be in like the same realm as like Philadelphia was last year, where they make the playoffs, probably lose in the first round.
I think that's fair. Usually, like that Super Bowl hangover, there's not that same drive that they had the year before, kind of proving people wrong. And they lost some key players. Boye Mafe, one of the best players in the league last year. And you lost your Super Bowl MVP, so I expect them to take a step back too. Whether they're worse or better than the Niners, I guess we'll see, but they should still be in the playoff hunt for sure. But they get their licks in to start in week one. They start off the entire season Wednesday night against the Patriots. And how do you think this shakes out?
I don't think Drake May's shoulder is going to be separated. We're going to see A.J. Brown make his debut here as well. So I think the Patriots win on opening night in statement fashion.
And typically the teams that lose the following game, especially in the playoffs, they tend to come back and win that rematch. So I think I like that mentality there. And then they get the privilege, after falling on track to be 0-17, they face the Cardinals in week 2.
They face the Cardinals in week 2. I do think they beat the Cardinals here, so they are now 1-1.
On track to be 1-16 now. Hell yeah. And then week 3, they go to FedEx Field in Washington D.C. to take on Jaden Daniels.
And I think the Commanders win that one. That's just a very 1 o'clock, get lost in the slate type of game where the Commanders win. So, yeah, I will take the Commanders.
All right. And then they go and host the Chargers week 4.
I'll go with the Chargers on this one. I think the Chargers defense will be good enough to give the Seattle Seahawks a lot of problems there. So a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover out of the gate, but they can recover, right?
Let's see. Week 5, they go and host the 49ers.
Host the 49ers, and then you had the Niners beating them, or the Seahawks beating the Niners the first time around, so I will stick with that as well, and then they go to 2-3.
All right. And then Thursday Night Football week 6 against the Broncos.
6 against the Broncos of what could have been Super Bowl for Sean Payton, Bo Nix. I will take the Broncos in this one. I think the Broncos are going to destroy the NFC West this year.
And they have elevation on their side. And then week 7, they have a 10-day break from Denver, and then they Sunday Night Football against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Kenneth Walker revenge.
Kenneth Walker revenge, Justin Fields revenge. Is this in Kansas City or in Seattle?
This is in Seattle.
If it's in Seattle, I will actually take the Seahawks to win this one. Been on a little bit of a slip, so got to give them a win there somewhere. I think at home they win that.
And then after the Chiefs, another primetime game, Monday Night Football, hosting the Chicago Bears in the Madden cover.
Yeah, sounds like Monday Night Football, and I will take the Bears to win that one.
Damn. Dub Bears. All right. And then, luckily for them, they have lost against the Bears. However, week 9 against the Cardinals.
And they get a win there. They're now 4-5 here, kind of figuring it out.
But the last game before their bye, they go to Vegas to take on Francisco Mendoza.
And they go 500 heading into their bye. Let out a sigh of relief. Mike McDonald says, "Turn on the ice cream machine. It's been broken too many times."
Respect. And then week 12, the Niners going to San Francisco this time around.
And you had them splitting, so I will stick with that. So they come out of their bye with a loss.
Tough to see it. I hate to see it. They are now 5-6. Super Bowl hangover. We see it all the time. And then they go to they host Jerry Jones and the Cowboys Monday Night Football Week 13.
Monday Night Football Week 13. Primetime Dak. I will say the Seahawks win that one and go back to 500.
All right, so they're kind of fighting 500. There's 5 weeks left in the season. In Week 14, they host not just any New York team. They host the New York Giants. And this is on the 4 o'clock slate.
And I think the Giants kind of kill their dreams a little bit, and then
Oh, you
the
son of a
Seattle
bitch.
Seahawks are now 6-7. Everybody laughs because the joke is so funny. But seriously, I think they'll be 6-7.
All right, 6-7 Eagles, Super Bowl to 6-7. Look at how the mighty have fallen. But speaking of Super Bowl hangovers, we have the Eagles. They had a Super Bowl hangover once. They go to Philadelphia, to the house that Braun built, Week 15.
Yeah, and I think the house that Braun built will be standing strong, and they go 6-8.
Oof.
It's panic
Tough.
time.
That's why LeBron's our GOAT. Week 16, Super Bowl. This is a Christmas game, and they are hoisting the Rams.
On Christmas,
And I believe
yeah,
you.
I think I think the Rams win that.
Oof. Tough. So
6-9.
officially
The trifecta,
losing season.
6-7.
Now even a funnier number. We've got it all now. And then depends on what happens the week before, but week 17 they go to Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, I think they beat Carolina.
And they are now 7-9. And they end the season. Maybe this game doesn't matter. Maybe it does. At LA against the Rams.
Yeah, I think I had the Rams beating them or splitting with them. So I do think Seattle wins that game because I don't think it'll matter for the Rams, right, in our records. So, yeah, I think they'll be resting people.
So 8-9 for the Seahawks.
Yes, that's it, Bennett. Can't get it done.
Hate to see it. Our prince that once was.
So we have...
And ironic.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, Seahawks going from 14-3 to 8-9. Super Bowl hangover. It seems like the Seahawks are the one that's gonna catch that bug. It's gonna be either them or the Patriots, and I feel like the Seahawks are in a perfect position to have it, unfortunately.
Do you feel like I was being unfair to Seattle? Because I was trying to be objective. Because I think they still have a good defense. I just think without Kenneth Walker, I don't think Cooper Kupp's really going to be the same for them. They're not going to have the same wide receiver core. They paid Jackson Smith and Jigba, just gave him a bunch of money coming off a Super Bowl. So it just feels like, I don't know, those speeches from Mike McDonald, it's going to be like, yeah, we've heard this before. We already won the Super Bowl, and then sometimes when you go to rally, you realize it's too late.
Yeah. I think there's some games in there that they maybe win. Like maybe they beat the Commanders. Maybe they're 9-8, 8-9, but I feel like that's pretty fair. I mean, you have them losing to the Bears. You have the Patriots getting their licks back in week 1. The division that they're in is really tough as well. So I feel like you're pretty fair for the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks are better than we think. I know last year I had them at 8-9, and boy was I wrong. But I think for this year, especially coming off of a Super Bowl, every year there's a Super Bowl hangover, no matter who it is. And I feel like the Seahawks are the most vulnerable, especially because they lost some really key guys too.
Yeah, so I definitely think it'll be interesting to see how they plug those holes here. But we would have the Rams at 13-4, the 49ers at 11-6, the Seahawks at 8-9. They also went 6-7 at one point in the season, and then the Cardinals at 4-13.
I think that's a good record. I honestly think this one I think could be going down to within a game or so. I feel like this could be pretty much exactly how it goes.
Yeah, and that is the West. Definitely be an interesting division next year. We're kind of on a collision course, though, for probably Rams, Bengals rematch, though, right?
I hope so. I want to see a Super Bowl. I mean, Drake May's great, so is Sam Darnold, but I want to see a Super Bowl with a top 5 quarterback in the league. I want to see Joe Burrow. I want to see Patrick Mahomes. I want to see Lamar, Josh Allen. One of those guys make it out of the hunt. The guys that are defining the generation. And if Joe Burrow can stay healthy, absolutely. And then obviously the Rams with what they have with Matt Stafford. This is kind of like 1 or 2 more years of this bubble before it starts to collapse. So let's see it. Let's see 2 top 5 quarterbacks go head-to-head in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's last year's Super Bowl. I think like the NFL does react and adjust, and it's like, especially with gambling, a lot of people did say like, "Hey, this is probably one of the worst Super Bowls ever." Even though people quickly forget how bad the Jared Goff and Tom Brady Super Bowl was, like that one was just as painful as this one. So I do think the NFL realizes they need a star-studded Super Bowl next year. So I do think we could be on a collision course for a Rams and Bengals rematch, because we've gotten a couple rematches. Eagles and Chiefs have rematched, and then we've also gotten the 49ers and Chiefs here. So if we get a rematch out of the AFC, I definitely think Cincinnati and LA would be one of the most interesting ones we could get, especially you're just re-adding Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua. Then you have Boye Mafe, Dexter Lawrence versus Myles Garrett. Have Trent McDuffie too. So I do think if there's a really interesting Super Bowl matchup, or they just go all out with Buffalo versus LA, and then Matthew Stafford essentially saving Patrick Mahomes from any competition.
It's funny that you say that. If this is the Super Bowl that is played, the Bengals and Rams, this Super Bowl is in SoFi. The last time the Super Bowl was in SoFi was Rams Bengals, and that was the Super Bowl halftime that had Snoop Dogg and Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick. So history does repeat itself from time to time. We are history buffs. 5 years later, Joe Burrow's back in the Super Bowl trying to get his licks back. Matt Stafford trying to go for number 2. So I'm here for that. Cooper Kupp obviously is no longer there, but I think that'd be an interesting matchup. And I think it being in SoFi too, hoisting the Super Bowl too, that'd be electric for the city of LA.
Who do we have for the halftime this time then?
I don't know if they've announced the halftime yet. I'll look it up.
It's usually
I know.
in the middle of the season.
Yeah, and it's usually somebody I don't want. Early rumors are pointing to Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus as early rumors.
Yeah, I mean, Bieber kind of resurrected his career, and I've talked to, like, I guess a lot of people who grew up hating Justin Bieber. They're like, you know what? Maybe we're a little bit hard on him. You know, like
Justin Bieber's an icon. He's an icon. He really is. I think he's great. I think he'd be a great halftime show. Last halftime, who was the halftime show in 2026? That was Bad Bunny, and they had all this controversy because of it. God forbid a Spanish artist, because we didn't see Shakira have the halftime show a couple of years before. God forbid. No, that was the end of the world. And we had to have a Kid Rock halftime show because of it. So I think the NFL corrects their action. Let's get somebody who, even though Justin Bieber's not an American, he's somebody that we identify as an American. He would work. Miley Cyrus would also be great. He's Canadian. I think he's from Montreal or Calgary.
Yeah, it's almost like they drummed up all of that controversy to sell you another halftime show so they could make a bunch of money off of it. Isn't that crazy?
It worked. We did it. But yeah, Justin Bieber would be cool. I'd support it. Miley Cyrus would be sick too. I don't think she's as big now as she was, but she's got enough hits that they could fill 20 minutes with Miley Cyrus. Taylor Swift's always a favorite every year. Some other people are shouting out BTS and the Backstreet Boys, which both of those are not going to happen. I'm just
Bad Bunny's one thing, but keep BTS in the military, please.
I'm sorry, but like, you cannot have that outcry last year from them, and especially it's like, oh, Latin artists, not American, Super Bowl, bung ho, wah wah, cry cry, and then the very next year you have a Korean artist. And by the way, like BTS, not my cup of tea, probably not yours either, but obviously a very massive fan base. But the Super Bowl halftime show would be permanently stained for a lot of people in America. Maybe, unfortunately, maybe not, but BTS will not be the halftime show next year, I can promise you.
Well, so the Super Bowl halftime, they're trying to do like games in Mexico and Brazil, so they're kind of trying to appeal to new audiences. So they're doing an Australia game this year, so I could see them like doing Tame Impala for a halftime show. And then if you do, imagine like how Tame Impala, like being an Australian, won't get the amount of outcry that Bad Bunny will, even though Puerto Rico is a territory.
And a lot of people love, like, Bad Bunny is one of the top artists in the world too. Makes perfect sense why he was the halftime show. But no, God forbid.
He's the top artist, I believe.
Probably. I mean, Bad Bunny's he gets numbers, and his concerts sell out. Like, Bad Bunny. Also, like, if you ever go to like a club that's playing Bad Bunny, it's usually some good energy in there. So I supported the Bad Bunny escapades last year. I support Justin Bieber in 2027. But every year I always get disappointed with whoever the halftime show is, historically. But it also is like, that's a part of the Super Bowl, but that's not like, you and I aren't watching the halftime. We're not dedicated because of the halftime show. And nor is anybody else watching, most likely.
Yeah. It's just all the family who are like, who's on that team? They just didn't follow the whole year. It's the one time they watch. Like, I'm just watching it for the halftime show. Like, actually, no, you're not. You're just LARPing online.
You just want to tweet. And I get it. It is what it is. But we have officially recapped now the AFC and NFC South, the AFC and NFC East. Now we have done the NFC West, so AFC West is bound to come shortly after I move across the country. But we've covered all things football there.
Two things you have in common with LeBron. You both moved to the West Coast, and you both left the West Coast. So you guys have more in common than you think. Yes,
and you know what? Now he's in Philly, and we both love cheesesteaks. Probably that's probably why he bought it too. Him and his diet there. So yeah, we both make our jump. We're going back to the East Coast, starting on Friday, going through Colorado. Or I should say Denver, Kansas City, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and then eventually back to the old stomping grounds. So, yeah, bye-bye Arizona and its 115-degree heat. I'm not going to miss the heat.
Straight through from Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, I'm going to go to the Pirates game, and then I'm going to go from Pittsburgh to New Hampshire. Or technically Massachusetts, but yeah.
Yeah, Pirates game should be fun. Are they good this year?
Surprisingly, yeah. The Pirates are actually pretty fun. They have a good pitching staff. They got some good young talent. They're still not they're not a threat in the NL by any means, but compared to what they've usually been, they are the first team in MLB history to be like, I think it's like 11,000 and 11,000. So they're like perfectly mid over the last 150 years, essentially. If you look at their all-time record. So that's what the Pirates have going for them. Sometimes consistency is not always appreciated. And they're consistently mid. And right now they are Oh, 55 and 52. So now they got 3 wins over 500 so far in their 150-year history.
So they're like what the Magic have been, kind of, or the Chargers.
Yeah, I'd say the Chargers, the Titans historically are like that too, where they're just kind of middle of the road, but that's where we find ourselves now. But I'm gonna hit the Rocky Stadium. Rockies are terrible. The Royal Stadium, they're terrible. Chicago Cubs, they're usually pretty good. They're in the mix now, and then the Pirates. I don't think they're in the wild card right now, but I think they're fighting for it. So it'll be fun. I'm just excited to see all the different ballparks, and as a baseball fan, so it's going to be an iconic baseball trip for those who love baseball.
Yeah, sounds like some cool stadiums, especially like Chicago. The Rockies Stadium might be one of the best stadiums out there, especially with the views you get of the mountains looming in the distance of Denver. So, yeah, that'll be a fun trip. You get out of the heat. It's kind of the peak heat in Arizona, I guess, right now. It's like been pretty warm here. It hasn't been too bad though. I feel like the issue with the heat is like if it's cold, you can make fire, which is cool. But like if it's hot, what are you gonna do? Like make ice, make a snowstorm?
Yeah, I learned that pretty quickly here. Like, I moved here and like it was immediately the winter time, and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Arizona from November to April might be the best weather you're going to get any time of any season. Beautiful weather, perfect weather, amazing. Then it heats up, and then like April and May, it's whatever. Once when it gets to July, and I've only witnessed realistically 2 or 3 Julys in my lifetime here. Right now, when I check my weather, it is high of 111, low of 92, 105, 85, 107, 110, 111, 111, 108, 101, and that is the rest of my era at Phoenix. So just 110 every day with a low. A couple days ago, it didn't get below 100 degrees for 48 consecutive hours. So there wasn't a single break of 100 degrees. And that's why if you're looking at cities in America, maybe just find a city that cools off at night. That's what I would recommend. Austin does a decent job of cooling off.
It has
Denver,
trees too. That like
trees.
it's this thing called water.
We love trees.
In the city. But yeah, I was like thought like, like Texas. I visited Phoenix last year, and it was like Texas is hot in the summer, and it gets like a little bit humid, so it should feel roughly the same. But yeah, it just feels different. You feel like you're in a heat bowl. Like everyone around is kind of just fried, and it's been like pretty hot in Texas, but I still like walk down to like the store like at night, even though it's like 95, feels like 100 degrees. Like it just doesn't feel like the same level of heat, and I feel like, oh, it's dry heat, so it shouldn't feel as bad. Like you go to California, it's dry heat at night, so 90 degrees feels like 70 if there's a good breeze going. But Phoenix just doesn't have enough trees. There were water, like rivers on Google Maps that were there, and you just didn't see any water around you. And then I feel like, I don't know, Phoenix is tough because I feel like we couldn't really find like a concentrated part of downtown. Like they have like really fancy restaurants and bars there, but it's not like it just doesn't feel like a connected city yet.
Yeah, I think maybe eventually, but the problem with Phoenix is that, and maybe Dallas has the same issue where it's just because of how spread out it is, there's not really like, I guess, a heartbeat. Dallas definitely has a heartbeat, but Phoenix, like, there's certain cities, and one day we'll do a ranking of like the top 25 most populated cities. Phoenix is a good city. Like I would consider it a good city, but if we're comparing it to the likes of LA or Boston or Chicago or New York, or there's probably plenty of others that I'm missing, it's not in the same class at all. Like there's like a certain great cities have like a certain aura about them, for the lack of a better term, and Phoenix doesn't have that because nobody from Phoenix is from Phoenix, and a lot of people who live here are in suburbs with their family. So it's not like you're not like in Phoenix and you're not, going to work in Phoenix and seeing other people like doing their work in Phoenix. A lot of people are just like retired there or they're in their suburbs, kind of like isolated. So it's not really a great city to move to make friends in, I would say, historically. There's areas, of course, but it's a tougher city than other cities, I would say, for that.
Yeah, and it's like there's like a lot of people there though, which is interesting because there's 5 million people there, so it's kind of like the Chicago of the Southwest with like just the size of it. But a lot of like the residents there feel like retirees. Since a lot of boomers who just went there in the 70s, and like Phoenix is a cool city. I want to retire here. And then LA in California, like during COVID, there's like a flight out of LA, Seattle. So a lot of like West Coasters just kind of gravitated there to Phoenix, and then some of them like moved over to Texas. Some people like went from Colorado, but I definitely feel like it's a lot of like rich people's like snowbirding city. So I feel like there's a lot of parts of it. Does it feel like quieter in the summer where like a lot of people leave and then come back
Yeah,
in the winter?
100%. Yeah, like it's a weird city in the sense that like in the winter time it's super busy because they have spring training and they have like the waste management and they have people coming in from the other parts. A lot of people from Chicago come there for the winter time. And then the summertime, it's a lot quieter and it's almost worse because it's 110, but it's like then you really feel the desert aspect of the city because nobody's there. I mean, maybe not nobody, but a lot less people are there. Lines are a lot shorter, and it just feels like you're in this like basically like social experiment because Phoenix didn't exist 30 years ago realistically, if you really think about it. So it's like it's just basically it defies like humans' desire for innovation, but also their ignorance at the same time because they're like, we have ACs now. Phoenix is a city now. We're gonna make this happen, and it's done some great stuff. Phoenix is a definitely a city worth exploring. It's a good city overall, but it's also like you're in the summertime. You're like, where am I? I'm in hell, frankly.
Hell is hot and Phoenix is hotter, as the saying goes.
Yeah, it's a dry heat. They say that's the common phrase. But you know what? Dry heat 118 is worse than like 95-degree humid, 100% humidity. I witnessed that when I was in New Hampshire, and they had like the hottest day they've ever had, frankly, because they never get beyond 90 degrees there. But felt better than it felt at 110, and I never thought I would say that. The fucking heat, the sun in Arizona, they say that like Florida's the sunshine state. No, Phoenix, Arizona's the sunshine state, and that sun is stronger than 10 Derrick Henrys combined.
Yeah,
It's
I mean the
ridiculous.
West
Or
Coast
10 Aaron
sun
Donalds.
is different too. Like the sun is just hotter. Once you get past like Texas and Colorado, like even in Idaho, we get there in Boise. Like the first weekend, it was 67 degrees, and then it was still like hot in a flannel, below 70 degrees, walking around when the sun was still up. And then um, when we got back, like 2 weeks later in Boise, it was 102 degrees. I'm like, where did this heat come from? It was 102 degrees like in the weekend. Now it's like pretty much 100 degrees there every day. It's just the sun is so hot because it's like still really dry there as well. But it's just I don't know. I feel like you'd have to compare like I don't know if you'd be more miserable in Phoenix throughout the summer than you would be in Houston for a summer. I feel like you really have to live both experiences to decide which one's worse.
The thing is I would probably go to Florida before then. I need to go if I'm going to
Yeah.
live in the hottest, one of the hottest cities in America. In Phoenix's case, the hottest city in America. The biggest detriment to this city is that there's no water. There's pools, and the pools. Guess what? If you put a pool in 110 degrees every day, it's no longer cool anymore. It's 95-degree bath water. And for Houston, they have water that you can go to, like ocean or close to it, essentially.
Muddy water.
Yeah, and Florida has beaches, so it's like okay, if it's hot, I can get in the water there. But here, your escape is going up north. That's your escape, and guess what? They don't have up north either. Water. So that's the tough part.
Yeah, and then you're trading water for hurricanes too.
I will miss the storms here. The storms here are pretty great. They're like natural disasters here are like a bunch of dust for like 30 minutes, and that's it. That's pretty cool.
Do Yeah, because like it's tough. Like you live in the Midwest, you have to worry about like getting stuck in an ice storm or tornadoes. You live on the ocean, hurricanes. You live on the West Coast, fires.
Yep. Arizona doesn't have the fires as much, although they did have a fire in Flagstaff, but their storms are the fact that it just doesn't cool off, and your body literally like needs that like recooling period in your life. Like I'm not sure what the lows are in Austin these days, but the fact that the lows are like mid 90s is ridiculous. And when you go outside and let's say that you go out on a crawl out to a few bars and it's 105 still, it sucks. That's the only thing I could say. Like, it just sucks. Austin, it drops to like the 70s, it looks like. That is perfect. It just needs to drop. Like, you need just a moment to relax. Phoenix, it's just like this from July to September, and maybe honestly June to September. And by the time you're in September, this happened to me last year. But keep in mind that I also was gone for 3 weeks as well, and I traveled a lot last year, so I was out of the heat for a lot of it. But still, by the time you get to September and everyone's drinking their pumpkin spice lattes and 60 degrees and 70 degrees and you're still drinking it and 104, you start to really just not enjoy your life very much while you're there. So I say like as if I hate Phoenix, and that's not the case. I think Phoenix is a great city, but there are things about this city I will not miss at all.
Yeah, he's going full Jerry Seinfeld mode. What's the deal with Phoenix being hot? Why is the Northeast so cold?
Yeah, yeah, it's an adjustment. I think the cold, at least I know what I'm getting into. Maybe I will regret this in 6 months, but for now, I got a lot of good reasons to go back east. We have a lady there, got the family there, opportunities there. Great, fantastic. But the heat, fuck that. Shit's fucking miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a good change. Be exciting. Going back east, did you, I know your room's like pretty much all packed up now. Have you packed your TV or have you had time to watch or listen to anything this week?
You know, it's funny because I knew this segment was coming up this week, so I'm not going to be able to tell you much about this movie, but there was some medicine consumed before the watching of this movie. I decided, like, you know what? I can finally watch Marty Supreme. Now is my chance. I'm going to watch Marty Supreme. So I took some medicine, and something happened along the way where I woke up from my nap from watching Marty Supreme, and another movie was on. So I would have told you about Marty Supreme, but by the time I turned it back on, another Timothée Chalamet movie was playing. That was like 30 minutes into the movie. I think it was the Bob Dylan biopic. But the 15 minutes of Marty Supreme that I watched, definitely would recommend. But yeah, I turned it on, and like within like 20 minutes, I was out cold, and I woke up like 4 hours later, midway through another movie. So maybe not a good one to say, but otherwise, I haven't really been watching too much. I've been closing all the loose ends on my Madden franchise because Madden 27 is coming around. Marcus Cedrus, the safety for the Houston Texans, he doesn't know if he wants to stay in Houston for his final leg of his career. He's already won some Super Bowls. And now we're at the point in our Madden franchise where everyone's just kind of, going off into the sunset. We have, Tampa Tom, same idea. Just everyone just kind of everyone having their final resting spots. That's what I've been really playing lately. And it's going to continue in 2027. We just got to figure out who's going to play where next year, who's going to rebuild the Miami Dolphins and the Raiders and all that. So that's really what I've been playing. I would have talked about Marty Supreme, but I don't have much to say, sadly.
I saw Ye is on tour. He's actually like doing shows and it looks like performing. Are you gonna go see
Yeah.
Ye?
If I can, if he comes to Boston, I would love to. Or if he goes to Texas, I'm going to give you a ring. Is he touring, or is he going? I know he's been going international.
He's been doing some select shows. So he actually did San Antonio on 4th of July. He's done like Tampa, He did SoFi Stadium, which was the highest grossing show ever by a rapper.
Damn.
So, yeah,
He's
I don't
back.
know. Did you listen to his last album?
Bully? Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Was it just
Yeah.
like on the level of like kind of like his newer stuff where it's good but not the same?
It's better than Vultures, like both of the Vultures, and it's better than parts of Donda, but it's just like nowadays he doesn't complete his albums historically. Like a lot of it feels like what he would have not released in 2015, he releases in 2026 now, unfinished, and then makes edits. But when he finally made the proper edits and made it properly finished, like Bully is a good album. Is it the best album of the year? No, but is there good songs on it? For sure.
It's Gemini season, so
It is Gemini season. But I see he's going to Soldier Field. I wish I was going to Soldier Field the same time because he's going the 3rd and the 4th of September. And I will be in Chicago the 3rd and 4th of August. So tough. But that is unfortunate.
that's like
But we'll
Labor
see
Day
the bean.
weekend, too.
It is. I bet tickets are a minimum of $500 is my guess. Knowing the demand for that. $250. Okay. Not as bad as I thought. Maybe we go to Soldier Field.
It is crazy
But-
to be like that blacklisted and still doing shows and making as much money as he is. Just shows like people just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, you look at that catalog. How can you actually cancel that guy? His catalog is up there with any other rapper in history, frankly. So it's hard to cancel. You can't, as he once said, you can't cancel the culture. So apparently that's a true statement.
You wear like the Life of Pablo shirt, and the guy at the Birria ramen store is still like, "Yo, awesome shirt." Like everyone still
Yep.
loves it. They'll be like, "But he's
Yeah.
don't care. It's still made. Jesus, still made.
Graduation. Yeah.
Still made. Jesus is king."
Yeah. Christians love that album. But, I'll see him. I do want to see him live in my life at some point. So hopefully he goes on an actual tour and I can buy the tickets and he doesn't cancel them, ideally. But that being said, what have you been watching? Probably more than what I have.
Yeah, I watched a couple things this weekend, but I finally saw the biggest movie out right now, probably the biggest movie of the year, The Odyssey. I saw it at 11 a.m. because do you want to either watch it at 11 a.m. or 10:30 at night? It's like, which one would you rather commit 3 hours to? So seeing an afternoon movie and then walking out to being bright out 90 degrees is a little bit weird. Usually not my style. Usually go for like 10 o'clock, but it's 3 hours long. And honestly, I thought it was really good. Saw it in IMAX, so I got the full experience. And there's not really anything in this movie where I can point to and say I hated it. I am not familiar with the book, so I'll say all I wanted out of this movie is just a fun, well-shot sword and sandals movie, and that's exactly what you get from this movie. You get good character depth. Some people were upset. They're like, Odysseus wouldn't be a war-torn, PTSD-ridden soldier, but sometimes the book doesn't necessarily translate to the screen, and Christopher Nolan really pushes the rule of Zeus, which essentially means if someone shows up, you have to give them hospitality because it could be a god in disguise. And essentially, Odysseus is torn up in this movie because he came up with the idea for the Trojan horse. They said it was a gift to essentially end the war. Well, it kind of ended the war after they accepted the gift. But so he's just torn up about essentially breaking Zeus's law. It's a huge plot in this movie, but it is gorgeous. They invented basically silencers for the IMAX cameras, so they did something really original, and like the bar for modern movies is pretty low. Like, just go on location and film and it looks way better. It's like the ocean scenes, they were at seas for about 40 days, I believe. All of the scenes where they're on the water, like even if you don't like the acting, you don't like the story in this movie, just like the spectacle alone is worth the price of admission, and it should win Oscar, like, because you can only film for 3 minutes at a time, film the whole movie in IMAX, literally have to invent something to be able to do it. Not only that, you're doing it on the ocean, and then Matt Damon also said this is the hardest movie that he has ever filmed in his life. So especially for someone who's as accomplished as him, and he's had really good roles as the Martian, but it really kind of just works with him as Odysseus. I was a little bit concerned about Tom Holland in this movie. He's kind of there. He doesn't like wow you in this movie, but his filler is good enough. He goes on a side quest with John Bernthal for some filler to look for Odysseus. Anne Hathaway as Penelope in this movie is really good. And then I was surprised at how much I liked Robert Pattinson, who's kind of the villain in this movie. Essentially, they think Odysseus is dead. So there's a bunch of suitors in the castle. So Anne Hathaway is essentially being asked by the elders to choose a new husband, so someone else can assume the throne. And then Tom Holland plays their son, Telemachus, and then he's essentially trying to find Odysseus because he still thinks he's alive.
Okay. I'm excited to watch The Odyssey, and I know I'll be seeing it on Sunday in Denver because all the 70 millimeters in Arizona were booked out weeks in advance, unfortunately. And it just couldn't make it work. But it's one of those movies. I feel like we talked about like when I saw Obsession, like it was a moment in like this year's cinema that we just had to witness that moment. I feel like The Odyssey is in that same kind of breath. Different type of movie, of course, but just that epic, Christopher Nolan, he doesn't come out with a movie every year. This is like, he's got a pretty historically good catalog as well. And he's making this epic, which he's made Oppenheimer and he's made some other, epics. I would consider The Dark Knight to be an epic as well, even though it's not, I guess, framed as one. But for him to do The Odyssey and with the cast that he has, I'm super stoked to see it. And, it seems like you enjoyed it as well. So I'm excited to talk about it when I do see it.
Yeah, and it's hard to make a 2 hour and 52-minute movie feel tight. You never really feel the runtime at any part in this movie because this movie has a really good pulse, and it's really loud seeing it in IMAX. And Christopher Nolan has like some pretty good 808s in this, and then just the aesthetics. We've all seen Agamemnon's helmet, like the guy is out here helmet maxing, and just some of the shots in this movie are so cool if you're a fan of that genre. Is it like as good as Gladiator or a movie like that? Probably not, but with everything they accomplish, like it looks amazing. I like the story in this movie, and I'm not like the biggest Christopher Nolan fan. I like some of his movies. Some of them for me are just okay. Definitely didn't like Tenet, but overall, I just thought this was a really good movie. I didn't have any expectations into it, and I get there was like a lot of drama coming into this movie. Talked to like our sister-in-law today. She's Greek and she watched it, and then she was like, well, like it's based off of mythology, so it's technically like it's based off of like a mythological world, so it's not like this is the everyday life of someone in Greek. So it's like the casting for me, and like, yeah, it's like not real. Of course there's not cyclopses or giant octopuses like snatching people in rocks. There's not actual witches in Greece here. So it's like the only person that distracted me in this movie with their acting was John Leguizamo. He was like the only person in this movie where every time he talked, you just see him in Violent Night or you hear Sid the Sloth and you're like, okay. So I would say that's the only time I like kind of checked out of this movie like a couple times was like John Leguizamo would talk.
Yeah, but that's it otherwise. But do you think the cast in general, like I know there's Anne Hathaway, there's Tom Holland, obviously Matt Damon. Matt Damon's a guy that I don't historically like love as an actor. I don't hate him, but I'm not like I wouldn't go out to see a Matt Damon movie otherwise historically. Obviously with The Odyssey it's a little different, but otherwise it seems like the acting performances were good. I know there were some complaints about Elliot Page as well. Did you think Elliot Page did a good job with its role?
I mean, if you didn't want Elliot Page, in this movie, there's a good payoff pretty much right away. And with Elliot Page, it once you realize like the type of character it's supposed to be, it's like um, their character, Elliot's character in the movie, is essentially just supposed to be like this shepherd boy who like one of the royals didn't want to switch places with, and then it's just supposed to be more of like a frail person. So it definitely like makes sense, especially in the Greek aesthetic. And if you're worried about, I don't know, um, someone being gay in this movie or something like that, I would read into how the Spartans bonded with each other, and then you'll be surprised if you actually look at Greek history if that's your concern. Where it's just being shoved down our throat. Like, well, if you want them to make a real Greek movie about what the Spartans were about and how they bonded in battle, you're probably not gonna like it.
And maybe it wouldn't be what's down their throat, but down some other hole of theirs potentially. But yeah, I'm excited to see it, and it's luckily on my path. I'll be able to hit a 70 millimeter, so I'll see that on Sunday, and then talk about how I feel about it. But I think it's going to be great. I mean, like I said, Christopher Nolan's track record is fairly consistent, I would say. Usually when he makes something, it's going to be at least good. Oppenheimer was good. His other movies. The only one I haven't seen that I've heard mixed reviews on is Tenet, but Interstellar.
Like
Dunkirk I did like. So I feel like he's done war movies, he's done superhero movies, he's done, period pieces, and now he's doing this like epic, Odyssey level gladiator shit. So I'm excited to see him try something new.
Yeah, and a lot of people just want him to do a horror movie after this because of some of the themes in this movie, and I don't disagree. I think it'd be cool if we saw like Christopher Nolan maybe try and take on an alien movie, or do like one of these legacy. Because if he did like another franchise, it'd be cool to see him do like a sci-fi, space like horror type movie.
Yeah, like a Close Encounters maybe, like something like
Yeah.
that.
Maybe something original. Yeah, because like for me, like I was like, for me, like Oppenheimer, I'm like, I get what you were doing with it. It just, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I just didn't watch Oppenheimer and was like, I have to rewatch that. This movie, I'm like, I need to see this in 40x next weekend. I was like, there's some of the videos from 40x and they're spraying you with mist and then they're shaking the chairs with the ship. I knew someone who saw it. Like this movie, like I would go back and see right away. Dunkirk, not really. Tenet, never again. Oppenheimer, maybe in like 5 or 10 years. And then like the Batman movies, definitely rewatchable. Prestige, yes. Some of his earlier stuff is cool. So I'm definitely interested to see where he goes from here. But I definitely like seeing these giant historical epics like Gladiator and Troy, and it's definitely something that's lacking because they tried rewatching Gladiator 2 and it's just the CGI takes you out of it.
Yeah, it was we saw Gladiator together years ago with some medicine. I don't remember the first Gladiator having a lot of CGI. I feel like that was the Gladiator 2
No.
appeal.
Like for me, like for that genre, like Braveheart and Gladiator are the standard.
Yeah, and I feel like what I like about Christopher Nolan movies is the fact that it's usually practical effects with everything he does, and I feel like the audience kind of enjoys that portion of it. The fact that he's not just so gung-ho in the CGI, especially when we live in a world of Marvel, and we're going to see Doomsday when that comes out in December. Like, we see enough movies with CGI, everything CGI. Masters of the Universe that came out a couple of months ago, all CGI, did bomb, but it's like, we see enough CGI. Let's have a movie with practical effects again, and I think people really resonate with that.
Ian, the other complaint was, oh, this movie like looks dull and dark. I'm like, yeah, they lit everything with fire. What do you think it's gonna look like? Like he lights everything in this movie. It's all like fireplaces and candles. It's all natural lighting, so it feels very atmospheric. Like when they're in the like Odysseus's castle with Anne Hathaway, when she has all the suitors there, and then the big action scene at the end. It's like all lit with candle and fire. People are like, it looks dark and orange, and I don't like how Christopher Nolan's colors look like? Well, it's all natural light, so that's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see it, but it'll be interesting to see, especially because I'll be in a whole different city to see it too. But we covered the NFC West, covered LeBron to the Sixers, all things Tony Romo and NFL news lurking around training camp. We'll be back, probably not next week, but the week after in the new city, in the new town, back in the old Queen City again. But make sure to check us out on our socials, and most importantly of